James' hands trembled as he held the crumpled letter, disbelief etched across his face. "I can't believe it. She would do this," he whispered. The words felt hollow, yet piercing, like shards of glass in his chest. Every memory of their childhood, every shared secret, now seemed tainted. Emma, his sister, had betrayed him, cutting through the fabric of trust they had woven together. James felt a storm of anger, grief, and confusion rise within him. He clenched his fists, heart pounding, aware that life as he knew it was over. "This isn't over, Emma," he muttered, eyes blazing with determination. Outside, rain hammered against the windows, mirroring the turmoil inside. Shadows flickered across the room, highlighting the stark emptiness of the betrayal. Even the familiar scent of home now carried a bitter undertone. He sank into a chair, trying to anchor himself, but the weight of treachery pressed relentlessly, demanding action. Each heartbeat reminded him that revenge was no longer a thought, it was an inevitability. James sat in the kitchen, hands gripping the edge of the table, heart racing. The betrayal replayed in his mind like a broken record. Emma had lied, manipulated, and left him exposed. He could still hear the echo of her laughter from the night she enacted her scheme, a cold reminder of how deeply he had been deceived. Each thought fueled a burning rage that refused to subside. He rose abruptly, storming toward the living room, pacing and muttering, "She can't get away with this." Outside, the rain continued to pour, matching his turmoil. Every familiar corner of the house now seemed tainted, a witness to treachery. His gaze hardened, planning steps he knew he had to take. There was no turning back. Revenge had become inevitable, and James' mind raced with strategies to reclaim control. James wandered through the house, each room a painful reminder of trust shattered. Photographs on the walls now seemed mocking, family memories twisted into proof of deception. He clenched his fists, feeling a mixture of sorrow and righteous fury. "I trusted her, and she destroyed everything," he muttered, voice cracking. He needed clarity, a plan, and perhaps an ally he could rely on. Thoughts of confrontation and justice collided with the remnants of familial love he still couldn't fully abandon. The storm outside mirrored the chaos in his mind, wind rattling windows as if urging him toward action. Shadows lengthened across the walls, echoing the growing darkness in his heart. James finally confronted Emma in the living room, voice low but trembling. "Why, Emma? How could you?" Her eyes met his with a calm he couldn't interpret. She said nothing, letting the silence scream. The weight of betrayal pressed down, making every breath heavy. James' mind raced for the right words, balancing rage with the remnants of trust he once held. His heartbeat echoed in the empty room as if marking time until revenge could be exacted. Outside, thunder rolled, punctuating the intensity of the confrontation. Every corner of the familiar room now felt alien, tainted by deceit. He realized this was not just a betrayal of trust. It was an attack on his very identity. James retreated to his bedroom, mind ablaze with strategies. Every memory of Emma's smiles now felt like a calculated mask hiding betrayal. He traced the sequence of lies in his mind, analyzing, planning. The fire of vengeance took root deep within him, mingling with sorrow and rage. "I will make this right," he whispered to himself. Eyes narrowed, jaw set. The storm outside continued unabated, rain lashing against the windows as if echoing the turmoil inside. James felt a profound shift within. He could no longer be the passive victim. Action was required, and he would take it, no matter the cost. Shadows stretched across the room, framing him as both the wronged and the avenger in the making. James sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel as rain pelted the windshield. Thoughts of Emma's betrayal consumed him. He recalled every word, every gesture, analyzing her deception with meticulous precision. The anger simmered, mingling with grief. "I should have seen it. I trusted her too much," he whispered, voice hoarse. Shadows from passing streetlights flickered across his tense face. The world outside felt distant, irrelevant. He considered reaching out to an ally, someone he could trust, but hesitation rooted him in place. The storm mirrored the chaos in his mind, a relentless reminder that he could no longer remain passive. His path was set. He would act, reclaim control, and confront the family secrets that had been hidden from him. Every heartbeat reinforced the inevitability of the coming reckoning. James arrived at a dimly lit cafe, seeking counsel from his old friend and confidant, Michael. Michael, casual blazer, eyes wary yet compassionate, listened intently as James recounted the betrayal. "She's changed everything, Michael. I can't trust her, or anyone," James admitted, voice tight. Michael leaned back, hands clasped, cautious but supportive. "You need clarity before action, James. Revenge without control destroys you too," he cautioned. Outside, rain drummed rhythmically, echoing the tension inside. James considered Michael's words, battling the urge to act impulsively. Every detail of Emma's deception replayed vividly, fueling a desire for justice. Yet he knew that precision, patience, and strategy were the only way to regain his life and dignity. James returned home, pacing the dimly lit hallways. The betrayal gnawed at him, eroding any sense of peace. He paused at family portraits, eyes tracing smiles that now felt like masks hiding betrayal. "I can't let this slide. She has to face consequences," he muttered. Shadows stretched across the walls as the storm intensified, lightning briefly illuminating the room. His mind raced with possible confrontations, potential alliances, and the inevitable emotional fallout. Every corner of the house, once familiar, now felt alien. Thoughts of Emma's calm demeanor during the betrayal fueled a growing resolve. James felt a shift within himself, a transformation from hurt and disbelief into a calculated determination to reclaim control and restore justice. James confronted Emma in the study, voice low but edged with intensity. "I need answers. Why did you do this?" he demanded. Emma, long auburn hair, crisp blouse, standing with arms crossed, met his gaze coolly. Silence filled the room, punctuated by the patter of rain against the windows. James' pulse raced as he realized the gravity of her calculated betrayal. Every lie, every manipulation, had been intentional, yet he sensed cracks in her composure, subtle hints of hesitation. His mind catalogued these details, each one strengthening his resolve. The confrontation, though controlled outwardly, was an emotional battleground, where strategy and raw feeling collided. James knew that understanding her motives was the key to executing the next steps in his plan for revenge. James retreated to his bedroom, mind whirling with strategies and countermeasures. He reviewed every interaction with Emma, searching for weaknesses and patterns. "She underestimated me," he whispered, determination hardening in his voice. Rain streaked the window as if echoing the intensity of his thoughts. Each heartbeat reminded him that revenge was no longer abstract, it was inevitable. He began drafting plans, envisioning confrontations, possible outcomes, and the alliances he could form. The fire of resolve burned brightly within him, eclipsing the sorrow and confusion of betrayal. He realized that action was necessary, and hesitation was a luxury he could no longer afford. By the morning, he vowed, everything would change. James discovered a hidden folder on Emma's laptop, revealing conversations and plans he had never imagined. Shock coursed through him as he scrolled, seeing manipulations that implicated other family members. "She planned all of this," he muttered, voice trembling. The betrayal was deeper than he had feared, a network of lies and calculated moves. Anger mingled with fascination as he studied every detail, realizing Emma had always been 2 steps ahead. Shadows from the storm outside crept across his face, mirroring the darkness of the revelations. The room felt smaller, suffocating under the weight of secrets. James understood that understanding these schemes was critical to reclaiming control and planning his next move. Every line of text was a breadcrumb to the truth, a puzzle demanding resolution. James called Michael to share the shocking discoveries, urgency in his voice. "Michael, it's worse than I imagined. She's manipulating everyone," he said. Michael, 35, male, listening with furrowed brow, leaned forward, hands clasped. They analyzed the evidence together, plotting potential ways to regain advantage. The storm outside intensified, thunder punctuating their words. James felt a mixture of relief and renewed tension, knowing he had an ally who could help strategize the next steps. Every detail mattered. Every misstep could tip the scales. James' mind raced with possible confrontations, alliances, and the timing needed to expose Emma's manipulations. The path forward was still dangerous, but clarity had begun to emerge from the chaos. James sought counsel from Olivia, the moral foil, 30, female, professional attire, determined but concerned. "James, you have to consider the consequences. Revenge can destroy more than just her," she warned. Her gaze held both fear and hope, a mirror to his inner conflict. James' hands clenched, the need for action battling his ethical hesitation. "I understand, Olivia, but I can't let her get away with this," he replied. Their conversation weighed heavily on him, forcing him to reconcile strategy with morality. The storm outside mirrored the tempest within. Each argument, each word, layered the foundation of decisions that would define the coming confrontations. Shadows shifted as thunder rumbled, marking the tension that permeated the room. James observed Emma meeting with her enforcer, Daniel, muscular, sharp suit, the tension between them palpable. James' heart raced as he realized the scope of her control. Daniel's obedience was almost robotic, yet a flicker of doubt crossed his expression. James catalogued every detail, noting weaknesses, body language, and signs of hesitation. The storm outside intensified, wind rattling the windows, echoing the danger that now surrounded him. James understood that uncovering these dynamics was crucial. He needed leverage. Every observation was a weapon, every insight a step closer to executing a plan that could expose Emma and reclaim the power she had taken. Patience and precision were paramount. James returned to his room, mind racing with revelations. He mapped out Emma's manipulations, cataloging allies and vulnerabilities. "This is bigger than I thought, but I see the path now," he muttered. Determination hardened, sorrow melted into calculated resolve. The storm outside raged, mirroring the intensity of his thoughts. He envisioned confrontations, exposures, and the timing needed for each step. Each revelation strengthened his understanding of the family dynamics and the power Emma wielded. James realized that precision, strategy, and patience were essential. The emotional turmoil of betrayal had now transformed into an actionable plan, and he felt a grim satisfaction as the path forward crystallized. James set his plan into motion, leaving the house under cover of darkness. Each step toward confrontation was deliberate, every movement measured. "Tonight, I take control," he whispered, voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through him. The streets glistened from recent rain, reflections of streetlights shimmering on wet asphalt. Every corner seemed alive with shadows, each one a potential threat. He considered Emma's weaknesses, the enforcer's loyalty, and the allies who could tip the balance. The tension coiled like a spring in his chest. James knew the night's actions would define the next chapter of his life. Precision, patience, and focus were his only allies now. He moved with calculated purpose, the storm outside echoing his inner resolve. James arrived at Emma's private meeting spot, observing her and Daniel, muscular, poised with a calculated calm. Every move matters, he reminded himself, eyes narrowing. Emma's control over her environment and allies was evident, but subtle cues revealed cracks in her composure. James catalogued every gesture, every glance, noting where leverage could be found. The rain continued to lash against the surrounding glass walls, wind creating eerie shadows across the room. Each heartbeat reminded him of the stakes, the risk, and the need for precision. He felt a mix of anticipation, anger, and strategic calm. The storm of emotions had transformed into a razor-sharp focus on execution. James contacted Olivia, the moral foil, seeking guidance. "I'm close, Olivia, but if I act recklessly it could destroy everything," he admitted. Olivia's eyes met his with calm concern. Remember, James, control your actions, not just your anger, she warned. Her voice resonated with reason, and for a moment, James felt the weight of morality pressing against his need for revenge. The storm outside intensified, rain lashing against windows, thunder punctuating the tension of his decisions. He understood that confrontation required precision, not just fury. Balancing strategy and ethics had become critical. Each step forward had to be deliberate, calculated, and informed by both intelligence and restraint. James watched from a hidden vantage point as Emma and Daniel discussed their next moves. The enforcer's loyalty seemed unwavering, yet subtle hesitation suggested an opening. James' mind catalogued every potential advantage: timing, environmental control, and psychological leverage. He felt the weight of impending confrontation, adrenaline mingling with strategic calm. "I see where she falters," he whispered, heart steady despite the tension. Rain slashed the glass outside, lightning briefly illuminating the room. Every shadow, every movement, added to the map he was constructing for the ultimate confrontation. Observation had become weaponized, each detail sharpening his edge. James finally stepped out of the shadows, confronting Emma directly. "It ends tonight," he said, voice calm but sharp. Emma's composure faltered for a brief instant, revealing the vulnerability he had been waiting for. Daniel tensed, protective yet uncertain. The storm outside roared, wind and rain battering the windows. James' calculated approach, built on hours of observation, strategy, and insight, had brought him to this moment. Every movement, every word mattered. The room, charged with anticipation, reflected the emotional and tactical climax of his journey thus far. Action, confrontation, and revelation were imminent, and James stood ready to seize control. James uncovered a shocking secret buried deep within Emma's files. She had been manipulated by someone even closer to the family. Betrayal now felt multi-layered, twisting his understanding of loyalty and trust. "It wasn't just her. Someone else is behind this," he muttered, stunned. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within him, rain pelting against the windows with relentless intensity. His mind raced, recalibrating his strategies. Every interaction, every calculated move Emma made suddenly had a new context. James realized that exposing her alone would not suffice. He needed to unmask the hidden orchestrator to fully reclaim control. The web of deceit was more complex than he had ever imagined, and the consequences of inaction were enormous. James confronted Emma again, determination sharpening his voice. "Why did you let this happen? Who are you really working for?" Emma, long auburn hair, elegant blouse, paused, hesitation flashing briefly across her otherwise composed face. Her calm facade cracked just enough to reveal vulnerability. James catalogued the subtle cues, realizing her deception extended beyond their family feud. Thunder rolled outside, lightning illuminating her expression in stark detail. He could sense fear beneath her poised exterior, a weakness he had never noticed before. Every word exchanged now held layers of revelation, reshaping the stakes of the conflict and redefining the path to justice he had meticulously planned. James sought counsel from Michael, in a quiet, dimly lit cafe. "It's deeper than we imagined. Emma isn't the only player," he confessed. Michael's brow furrowed, understanding the gravity of the revelation. "We have to rethink everything. Alliances, timing, exposure," Michael advised, voice measured yet urgent. The rain outside streaked the windows, punctuating the intensity of their discussion. James realized that every assumption he had made about loyalty, control, and vulnerability needed re-evaluation. The twist had transformed a straightforward confrontation into a multi-layered game of strategy, requiring patience, precision, and the ability to anticipate moves that even Emma might not foresee. James observed Daniel, the enforcer, during a moment of unexpected hesitation. He realized the enforcer's loyalty had limits, a crack he could exploit. "Even the strongest alliances have weaknesses," he murmured. Rain lashed the city outside, casting flickering shadows across the room. James' mind raced with strategies to manipulate these vulnerabilities. Observation became a weapon, patience a necessity. Every subtle gesture, Every pause provided insight into the dynamics of power and control within Emma's inner circle. He mapped potential moves, calculating timing and risk, knowing the twist had fundamentally changed the battlefield. The night demanded precision, and James was ready. James retreated to his bedroom, storm raging outside, processing the layered betrayals. Every plan, every observation, needed adjustment. "This changes everything. But now I understand the full scope," he whispered, voice firm. The revelation strengthened his resolve, transforming anger into calculated precision. Each family secret, each hidden motivation, became a tool to reclaim control. He began drafting a detailed plan to confront both Emma and the unseen orchestrator, envisioning timing, leverage, and contingencies. The storm outside mirrored the intensity of his mind, yet he felt clarity amid chaos. Action was imminent. James was no longer just reacting. He was orchestrating a precise, inevitable reckoning. James stepped into Emma's penthouse suite, heart pounding, mind razor-sharp with strategy. "It ends tonight," he whispered, voice steady but intense. Emma, 29, female, long auburn hair, elegant evening dress, stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, city lights reflecting off her composed expression. Daniel, 34, male, muscular suit, positioned protectively, glanced toward James. The room was tense, storm clouds outside, casting flickering shadows across marble floors. Every gesture, glance, and posture carried meaning. James' mind raced, calculating the sequence of moves that would expose Emma and reclaim control. The emotional and tactical climax had begun, each second stretching with the weight of inevitability. Every heartbeat reinforced the high stakes, leaving no room for error. James confronted Emma directly, each word measured. "All the lies end here. You've manipulated too many lives," he said, eyes blazing. Emma's composure faltered for the briefest moment, revealing fear beneath a carefully constructed mask. Daniel tensed, ready to intervene, but subtle hesitation betrayed his uncertainty. The storm outside raged, thunder punctuating the tension in the room. James advanced carefully, balancing authority with precision, forcing Emma and Daniel to react to his calculated movements. The confrontation was more than verbal. It was a psychological chess match, where every gesture and expression carried consequence. Victory required not just courage, but a flawless strategy executed under pressure. Emma lunged toward James, attempting to regain control, but he anticipated her move. "It's over, Emma," he stated calmly, sidestepping, eyes fixed on her every motion. Daniel's protective stance wavered, uncertainty creeping in. The storm outside intensified, lightning illuminating the room in sharp bursts, revealing every tense muscle, every anxious glance. James' planning, observation, and patience converged into perfect timing. He maintained control of the emotional and physical space, forcing Emma into vulnerability. Every heartbeat was amplified by adrenaline, the weight of betrayal and revenge hanging in the charged air. The climax had escalated into a full confrontation, demanding precise execution and emotional fortitude. James finally cornered Emma, forcing her into a defensive posture. "You underestimated me," he said, voice calm yet commanding. Emma's eyes widened, realizing the inevitability of exposure. Daniel's loyalty faltered entirely, confusion mixing with fear. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within the room, lightning revealing shadows and reflections that exaggerated the tension. James' calculated patience had delivered him to the decisive moment. Every secret, every observation, and every preparation had culminated in this encounter. The emotional intensity peaked, balancing vengeance, justice, and the raw consequences of betrayal. Time seemed suspended, each heartbeat signaling the approach of resolution. James delivered the final blow, not physical but strategic and revealing. "Everyone will know the truth," he declared. Emma's composure shattered completely, Daniel's loyalty broken. Rain pounded the windows, city lights reflecting off wet surfaces. James felt the weight of every betrayal, every hidden secret, now balanced by the precision of justice and revenge. The confrontation concluded with the clarity that action had consequences, and preparation had been essential. Exhaustion mingled with satisfaction as he surveyed the aftermath, truth exposed, power reclaimed, and the path forward defined. The storm outside gradually abated, leaving a quiet aftershock that mirrored the room's tense stillness. James stood in the quiet aftermath of the confrontation. Rain now softened to a gentle drizzle against the penthouse windows. He surveyed the room. Emma slumped in defeat, Daniel retreating into uncertainty. The adrenaline that had fueled him began to ebb, replaced by reflection. "It's finally over," he whispered, voice a mix of relief and lingering tension. The storm outside mirrored the cleansing that had occurred within the room. Every hidden secret had been exposed, every betrayal addressed. James felt the weight of victory, tempered by the realization that trust and family ties had been irrevocably altered. The emotional storm had passed, leaving clarity and a sobering calm in its wake. James returned to the family home, walking through halls that had once been tainted by betrayal. Each step was heavier with memories of deception, yet lighter with the knowledge of resolution. He passed family portraits, noting the altered expressions of recollection and regret. The house was quiet, almost reverent, as if acknowledging the reckoning that had taken place. "Things will never be the same," he murmured, voice tinged with melancholy. Yet, amid the sorrow, there was understanding. The path of vengeance had demanded sacrifice, and James had gained clarity, control, and a renewed sense of purpose. Shadows from the setting sun fell across walls, creating patterns that felt symbolic of the family's fractured but enduring ties. James reflected on the moral cost of revenge, weighing satisfaction against the loneliness it had wrought. He thought of Michael and Olivia, allies who had guided him, and the sacrifices made along the way. "Justice isn't clean, but it's necessary," he whispered, eyes distant yet resolute. Each betrayal, each revelation, had reshaped his understanding of loyalty, trust, and family. He acknowledged the pain but also recognized the strength it had forged within him. The storm of emotion had finally settled, leaving a landscape of clarity and cautious hope. James felt poised to rebuild, armed with insight, experience, and the knowledge that vigilance and strategy were now part of his life's fabric. James met with Michael and Olivia one last time, discussing the final implications of the confrontation. "We've closed this chapter, but vigilance remains," Michael said, voice calm. Olivia nodded, her eyes conveying both caution and approval. James absorbed their words, realizing the importance of alliances and perspective. The storm outside had completely subsided, leaving a serene night. The three shared a quiet moment of acknowledgement and understanding, the tension of betrayal replaced by clarity of action and consequence. James understood that the past could not be undone, but the lessons and outcomes would guide him forward, shaping decisions, relationships, and the pursuit of justice in the days to come. James stood alone on a rooftop, city lights glittering below, the storm now fully past. He gazed at the skyline, chest heavy yet resolute. "Everything has changed, and yet I am ready," he whispered to himself. The weight of betrayal, confrontation, and revelation had transformed him. Though family ties were fractured and trust difficult to rebuild, James felt a newfound clarity, power, and understanding. The night air carried a sense of finality, but also possibility. He understood that life would continue with vigilance, strategy, and strength, shaped by the trials endured. Silence stretched over the city, a calm that marked both an ending and a beginning, leaving James ready to face whatever came next with measured resolve.